Good day, everybody. I hope that you are well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 5 to 8 English lesson on prefixes and suffixes. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English language arts. We're doing grade 5 to 8. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of prefixes and suffixes. All right. So our chapter is prefixes and suffixes. Our subject is English language arts. We're doing grade 5 to 8. And then the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of prefixes and suffixes, it's words with miss as well as words with an, dis, in, im, and non. All right. So this is a continuation of our previous lesson on prefixes and suffixes, right? So we are now going to continue with basically prefixes, and then in our next lesson we will continue with suffixes. And we said a prefix, right? It's can't say if it's a word or it's letters, but a prefix can be added to the beginning of a base word to create a new word, right? So you'll have your base word, which is a word that can stand on its own. So base word is a word that can stand on its own. And then we have our prefix, which is either like I said, it can be a word or letters that we add, at the beginning of that base word to create a new word. But now, even though it is basically like letters that cannot stand on its own, that you add to the beginning of that base word to create a new word, but knowing the meaning of those prefixes, I'm going to say the prefixes, knowing the meaning of the prefixes can help you to determine the meaning of the word that you are creating. Because remember, we say that once you add the prefix to your base word, then we basically create a new word. because the prefix, it has its own meaning, right? Can be different words, but it has its own meaning. So once you add that word, or let's say the not the word, if you add the prefix to the beginning of the base word, we create a new word. It can either be negative word or it can turn into a positive word. It really depends on the specific word that you are creating, or it depends on the prefix that you add to the beginning of the base word, right? Or the meaning of that word, of the prefix. All right, so now we said that the lessons that we're focusing on is words with myth, as well as words with an, dis, in, im, and non. So if we look at the prefix miss, if we look at the prefix miss, right? Miss means incorrectly or it means badly, right? So miss either means incorrectly or it means badly. And during the course of our lesson, we're going to look at a few examples of prefixes with miss, as well as prefixes with and, dis, in, and non, right? But for now, the prefix miss either means incorrectly or it means badly, meaning that if we add the prefix miss to our base word, it's basically going to turn into some form of a negative word, because it's going to mean incorrectly, or it's going to mean wrong, it's going to mean badly. Then we have the prefix an, or this, or in, or im, or non, right? Once we add any one of these prefixes to a specific word, then these words usually mean not, or it means the opposite of, which means that it also changes our word to a negative word, right? It also changes our word to a negative word. So you can either add the word an, the prefix an, or the prefix dis, or the prefix in, or the prefix im, or non to our base word, and then it basically changes a word either to the opposite of meaning it's not, or the opposite of what that word is. Right? All right. So now we're going to look at a few examples of either the prefix miss or the prefixes, which is an, dis, in, im, and non. And keeping in mind that the prefix miss means incorrectly or bad, and the prefix an, dis, in, im, and non, it usually means either not or it means the opposite of what that word actually means. All right. So now if we look at an example of our prefix miss, and if we look at a few words, right, with the prefix miss, I'm going to start with miss, then look at the word misbehave. If somebody misbehaves, right, misbehave, it means that you are not behaving, right, or you're behaving in a bad manner or bad way, right? Misbehave. Let's look at another word, misread or misread. If you misread or misread another word, or a word, sorry, then it means that we can either say that you read incorrectly or you read wrongly, right? Because you misread, let's say, a few words, like you skipped a few words, or you the spelling of the few words were it was wrong. So misread, it's like saying that you read wrongly or incorrectly. Mistreat, if you mistreat someone or something badly, mistreat, then it means that you are treating something wrongly or you're treating something badly, right? And this is basically examples of the prefixes where we use the word mis, right? Misbehave, misread, mistreat, even misspell. If you misspell a word, right, then we can even say that you spelled the word wrongly. Misyear. Let's say we were to play the game Broken Telephone, right? Where one person says something and then the rest will have to repeat what the person had said, but you need to say it into the person's into the next person's ear. So now if you mishear or misheard a specific word or the sentence or whatever that you had to say, then it means that you heard or you heard something wrongly. If we misplace something, these are a few examples. Misplace. We have misuse, right? And based on the meaning of the word miss, incorrectly or badly or wrongly, you can already try and come up with your own meaning, or you can basically determine the meaning of what that new word is. Misplace, misuse, mislead, right? Even misunderstand. These are examples of prefixes, right? But this is examples of words with the prefix mis. And we say that the meaning of the prefix mis is either incorrectly, or it means badly, or it means wrongly, right? All right. So now we're going to look at a few examples with the prefixes, which is an, dis, im, in, and non. So we're going to look at a few examples of these words or of these prefixes. All right. And if we were to, I'm going to use a different color to identify the prefixes of, I'm going to put here an, dis, in, im, non, right? So now if we were to identify prefixes, right, or words with the prefix and, dis, in, im, and non, and keeping in mind that the meaning of these prefixes, it means not or it means the opposite of. It means not, or it means the opposite of. And if we look at a word, right? If you look at maybe a word with dis, right? A word with dis, then we can maybe say disconnect, meaning it is not connected, right? If you disconnect something, you disconnect your charger, disconnect the Wi-Fi or something, then it means that it is not connected. If you look at the word non, non-existent or non-exist, or we can even say nonsense. If something is nonsense, it's not making sense, right? Even if you look at the word un, then we have unfriendly, meaning you're not friendly. Or we have unsatisfied, meaning that you are just not satisfied with something, or you're not satisfied with anything, right? If you look at the word impatient, meaning that you are not a patient person, it is the opposite of patient. And that is but a few examples of an, dis, in, im, and not. We have disconnect. We can even say disagree, meaning that you don't agree with something. It's the opposite of agree, meaning if it's the opposite of agree, then it means that I do not agree with something. Disagree. The opposite of dependent is independent. So the opposite of dependent is independent. So you have fiction and you have non-fiction. So fiction and non-fiction. Something is pleasant, and if it's not pleasant, then it's unpleasant. And that is but a few examples of the prefixes, which is an, dis, in, im, and non. And it means either not, or it is the opposite of the base word. And then we also looked at the prefixes, or the words with miss, or the words with the prefix miss, which means incorrectly, or it means badly. And we looked at a few words, which is misbehave, misplace, misread, misuse, mistreat, mislead, misspell, misunderstand, mishear. Same with the words that means opposite or not. We have non-fiction, meaning it is the opposite of fiction. It's either you have fiction or non-fiction books. Unpleasant, it is not pleasant. It's the opposite of pleasant. Disconnect, meaning something is not connected, is the opposite of connect. Non-exist, it doesn't exist. Nonsense, it does not make sense. Unfriendly, you're not friendly at all. It's the opposite of friendly. Then we have unsatisfied, someone or something that is not satisfied with something or someone. Impatient, it's the opposite of patient. You have zero patience. Disagree is the opposite of agree, meaning that you do not agree. And then we have independent, which is the opposite of dependent. Independent is where you can do everything on your own, you stand on your own, you do everything on your own. Whereas the opposite of independent is dependent. It's like you are dependent on something or someone. All right. So now we're going to a+students.ca, and we are going to look at words with miss as well as words with un, dis, im, in, and non. So let's start with words with miss. We're going to look at a few activities and then we're going to our test. All right, so now it says which type of behavior shouldn't cause mistrust? Which type of behavior should not cause mistrust? What shouldn't cause mistrust? And the type of behavior that shouldn't cause mistrust is honest behavior. If somebody's honest, if somebody's truthful, and then we have no reason to mistrust that person, right? Honest behavior, being honest, being truthful, right? It means that we won't have a problem with mistrusting someone, right? Because mistrust, the meaning of mistrust, meaning that you do not trust somebody, you don't trust anything or someone or something. It is the lack of trusting something or someone. So it's the lack of trust or the lack of confidence in someone. All right. Now the next one says misunderstand. Which are you more likely to misunderstand? So which are you more likely to misunderstand? Is it a complicated direction? Which are you more likely to misunderstand? Can we say complicated direction? Or can we say simple direction? Something that you are more likely to misunderstand, that you don't understand. Complicated directions or simple directions. And if we were to identify something that is more likely, that you are more likely to misunderstand, then it is a complicated direction, something that you don't fully understand. Like, this is so complicated. Do I go left? Do I go right? It's complicated. All right. One more, and then we're going to our test. Which is more likely to misstate a fact? Misstate a fact that you did not state it correctly. Misstate. You stated it wrongly. Misstate. And something, or let's say someone who is more likely to misstate a fact, is it a student or an expert? Then we can say a student is more likely to misstate a fact, right? All right, so now we're going to our test where we are going to look at words with miss. So we're going to look at words with miss. All right, so which type of behavior shouldn't cause mistrust? It should not cause mistrust. Is it option one, suspicious behavior, or option two, honest behavior? Remember something that should not cause mistrust behavior. It should not. If something is suspicious, it's sneaky. Like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be doing that. That is like suspicious behavior. Honest behavior, truthful. So, which type of behavior should not cause mistrust? Meaning that if I behave in this way, whether it's suspicious or honest, they will fully believe me. They wouldn't even think that I'm lying. So, is it option one, suspicious behavior, or option two, honest behavior? And if we were to choose the correct option, then we would say honest behavior. which is option 2. Honest behavior would not or should not cause mistrust. But well done. The next one says, which results in misspent time. Misspent time. So, option 1, which is misspent time. Is it doing something important, or option 2, doing something unnecessary? What would you say is misspent time? Doing something important or doing something unnecessary? All right. And something that results in misspent time, we can say it is doing something unnecessary. That results in misspent time. All right, the next one says, how could a news report misrepresent an event? So, how can a news report misrepresent an event? Is it option 1, by leaving out important details, or option 2, by giving too many details? And if we were to choose the correct option, yes, we can say by leaving out important details. That means that a news report can misrepresent an event. Which is a common misspelling of the number 2? Is it option 1, 2, or option 2, 2? It's how people usually misspells the number 2. Option 1 or option 2? All right, and if we were to choose the correct option, then 2, T double O. People usually misspell the number 2 for 2, which is T double O. All right, and if we were to something which is less likely to be misinterpreted. Something that is less likely to be interpreted. Is it clear instructions? Is less likely to be misinterpreted? Or option two, unclear instructions. So which one is correct? All right. And if we were to choose the correct option, then yes, we would say which are more likely to be misinterpreted. Clear instructions, right, would be less likely to be misinterpreted. All right, so now we're going with words with an, dis, in, im, and none. Let's do one, and then we go into our test. Which word, which would be an impractical way to get from the United States to England? An impractical way. And if we were to say which is something that is an impractical way to either get from the United States to England, rowing a boat or taking an airplane. So we would say rowing a boat, right? All right. Let's go to our test where we are going to look at words with an, dis, in, im, and non. All right. Why might you feel disconnected from friends? Why might you feel disconnected from friends? Is it option one because you haven't heard from them in a while? Or option two because you've been spending a lot of time with them? Which one is correct? Option one or option two? Option one or option two? Which one is correct? And if we were to choose the correct option, then yes, we would say because you haven't heard from them in a while. Well done. All right, the next one says, what is an uncivilized person unlikely to do? An uncivilized person. Is it to say, excuse me, or to drink water? What is an uncivilized person unlikely to do? To say, excuse me, or to drink water? Which one is correct? So an uncivilized person is unlikely to do option one or option two. All right, let's choose option two. I think an uncivilized person is not likely to say, "Excuse me, sorry." Okay, but let's go for drink water. You see, an uncivilized person is unlikely to say, "Excuse me." Remember, any person, whether you're civil or uncivil, you drink water, right? So option one is actually correct. Is to say, "Excuse me," but well done. Which is non living? Something that is non living. Is it a plant, option one, or a mineral, option two? It is non living. So, which is non living? A plant or a mineral? Are you asking how for the drinking part? Remember, an uncivil person, right? Meaning that you have no manners. An uncivil person will not say things like, "Excuse me," like, "Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't hear," right? Because remember, like I say, any person should drink water, drink something, whether you're civil or uncivil. But an uncivil person is unlikely to say, "Excuse me, I didn't hear you. Can you maybe repeat?" or something like that. Right? That is why we said it's supposed to be saying "excuse me," not "excuse me" with an attitude. All right, and if we were to identify something that is non living, it will be a mineral. All right. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on prefixes and suffixes, and we still went over the prefixes of "miss" and the prefix "undis," "in," "im," and "non," and we said that it either means the opposite or it means not, or it means incorrectly or badly, right? And knowing the meaning of a prefix will help you to determine the meaning of the new word that it creates. And a prefix is a word that you add at the beginning of the root word to create a new word. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on prefixes and suffixes. Thank you very much for joining, and I really hope you're going to have a good weekend further. So, till next time, goodbye.